What is up, Packers fans? Welcome back to the Daily Draft, brought to you by Brewski Light Lager from our good friends at Badger State Brewing. Of course, I am your host, Ross Uglem, the publisher of Packer Report, and today we are talking about one of the Packers' biggest needs, I think, in this NFL draft, and that is Toledo defensive tackle Darius Alexander. Now, Darius might not be the specific need, but the Packers certainly have a spot at defensive tackle on the roster available. TJ Slayton has moved on to the Cincinnati Bengals, I do believe, and Kenny Clark is kind of in an interesting situation with his contract. Should have played better last year. Could have been the switch to Jeff Hafley's system, but certainly not producing at a rate commensurate with his salary. Green Bay gave him that third contract that they don't give a lot of players either way. Defensive tackle, even if they do re-sign Devontae Wyatt, defensive tackle, a spot the Green Bay Packers could be looking at. Darius Alexander, pros. One of the higher rated defensive tackles in the country by PFF. Once again, I explain this a lot. PFF to me, not necessarily the quality of the player, though I think you'll see their grading reflect, a lot about who the good players are. It's consistency to me. They grade every single player. Their graders grade every single play. And the number one thing I found correlation with good PFF grades, and then what I see is like the guys with really high grades bring it on every play. And so if you have 48 snaps, they're 48 good snaps. They may not be 48 holy S snaps and or 36 holy S snaps and 12 snaps where they just take the play off, but it's usually pretty darn good throughout the entire game that I'm watching, and that's what I saw with Darius Alexander. Consistency, 83 pressures from Darius Alexander over the last two seasons, and he is an absolutely elite run defender. One of the top graded guys in the country, does an excellent job of defeating blocks, does an excellent job of taking on double teams without giving up ground, especially for a guy who's not 330, right? I mean, he's not the traditional size of a giant nose tackle. He does a really, really good job in run defense. He is an incredibly high level athlete. He's got big time explosive numbers and a darn good 40 time for someone as big as he is. And he dominated the Senior Bowl. That's a big thing. You alleviate, some of the level of competition concerns. Guy coming out of Toledo, people like, oh, Ross, you're an NDSU guy. NDSU would smack around most of the MAC, as would South Dakota State. I mean, the MAC is not particularly good ball. Great length, 6'4", but big long arms, big long frame. On an interior rush, has the ability to create space, and that's the hardest thing to do as an interior rusher, is to create space between you and a center, create space between you and a guard. It's kind of like fighting in a phone booth. You start to create separation, you start to create avenues to the quarterback, and then that's something he has in spades. The other thing he has in spades is he's the kids would say Darius Alexander has a bag. He rushes with a plan. He has pass rush moves. It's not just bull rush, which is sometimes what you get from a defensive tackle. He's got a number of moves, whether it's a swim move, whether it's the cross chop. He's got some arm over stuff that I've seen on film. Not a ton with the spin, but he's very good. He's very, very technically sound or technically proficient in what he does. Some defensive tackles get a jump in the snap. Some defensive tackles are just too darn quick. Darius Alexander is really, really skilled. You know who else is really skilled? Is all the guys that put together the Green Bay Draft Guide, powered by Packer Report. Buy that sucker. $1 off with the promo code DAILY. It's going to be your best resource for the Green Bay Packers upcoming draft, which, by the way, they are hosting. The draft is in Green Bay. More on that later. Cons, that MAC level of competition. That's important to note. Not a great tackler. That doesn't always matter so much at defensive tackle, because a lot of times you're just kind of holding ground for your linebackers to clean up. It's not a hugely important position, because again, your tackle leaders are not usually your defensive tackles. A lot of times they're taking on blocks for faster players behind them to make the play. Very old prospect. Could have been man amongst boys situation. He definitely got better in year 5 and definitely got his best tape in year 6. Could have been a man amongst boys. And then when those boys are in the MAC, we have questions. Not a flexible athlete, very linear, even for a defensive tackle. You're not going to see, I don't think, a great, I don't think he even ran him. I would not, after watching the tape, anticipate like a great 3-cone or short shuttle time. I think he's a pretty explosive, linear athlete, but he is good. Packers fit. He's old. They took an older player in Devontae Wyatt, I think, but he was probably a 5th-year guy. I don't think he was a 6th-year guy. Took a 5th-year guy in Christian Watson. He's pretty old. I don't know what if there's any track record of Green Bay taking 6th-year guys. They will find talent anywhere. They just took Carl Brooks from Bowling Green. Like, they literally took a player at his position from his conference. It is something that they will do. And he is the size of a defensive tackle they take, and certainly with the athletic profile they take as well. Guys, head down to Badger State Beer and have one for me during the draft week. Did I say draft week? Yes, I did. Really fun stuff going on at Badger State starting on April 22nd. They're going to get rocking and rolling at Badger State. Have so much fun while you're there. Food trucks, great beer. There's an old-fashioned statement. It's as Wisconsin as it gets. Go see my friends at Badger State Brewing. Overall, for Darius Alexander, he has a solid second-round grade. He is my 49th overall prospect. I don't think he's going to be a Green Bay Packer, but he's fun. Watch his tape. He's fun.